Alcatraz, you've heard the name. They called it the Rock. It was supposed to be the most secure, most notorious prison in the entire world, plopped right in the middle of San Francisco Bay. And look, this wasn't just any prison. It was a fortress, literally designed to be escape-proof. You had constant head counts by the guards, and even if you got past the walls, the bay itself was the real prison. We're talking freezing water, killer currents. The official line was simple. Nobody ever successfully escaped. But on one foggy morning, back in 1962, that claim was about to get challenged in a big, big way.
Okay, so picture this. It is the morning of June 12th, 1962. A guard's doing the 7 a.m. roll call. He gets to the cells of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, but they're not responding. He peeks in, sees them lying in their beds, looks like they're just sleeping. So he walks over to Frank's cell, gives him a little tap on the head with his nightstick to wake him up, and Frank's head, well, it falls right off.
For a split second, this guard thinks he's just decapitated a man. Absolute chaos erupts. But it's not a real head. It's a decoy made of paper mache, but it's chillingly lifelike. The men, they're just gone. Which leads us to the one baffling question that has hooked people for decades. How on earth did 3 inmates just vanish from the world's most secure prison?
So yeah, just to be crystal clear on what just happened at roll call, the beds of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and his brother Clarence all looked like they were occupied. But that horrifying discovery of the dummy heads confirmed the impossible. 3 men had basically just vanished into thin air.
As panic is ripping through the prison, investigators pretty quickly figure out there was a 4th guy involved. His name is Alan West, and he's still in his cell. He has a fake head too, but for some reason he didn't make it out with the others. So in exchange for a little leniency, West agrees to talk. And just like that, he becomes the key to unlocking one of the greatest mysteries in history.
Look, to pull off something this impossible, you need the right team. And boy, did they have one. Frank Morris was a career criminal, but he had a reputation as the Houdini of the prison system. John and Clarence Anglin, they were bank robbers, also known for trying to escape before. So Alcatraz didn't just get 3 random inmates, it got a team of specialists.
According to West, their plan was just a masterpiece. It was all about patience and incredible ingenuity, and it was broken down into 4 pretty insane steps. First, they had to somehow dig their way out of their cells. Then, they had to hide the evidence. After that, they needed to make decoys to buy themselves time, and finally, they had to get to the roof.
So the key to this whole thing was hiding in plain sight, right under the sink in each of their cells, a little air vent. See, the prison's concrete, after years of being battered by salt air, was getting kind of brittle. So night after night, they used sharpened spoons to scrape away at the concrete, making that vent hole bigger and bigger until they could just squeeze through. And to hide their work, they made fake vent covers out of paper mache and painted them to match the grimy cell wall. Genius.
And the level of detail they went to is just astonishing. To fool the guards making their hourly checks at night, they absolutely needed those decoys. So they made these dummy heads from a mix of paper mache, soap, and cement. But here's the kicker, the finishing touch. They collected real human hair from the prison barbershop to make the heads look unnervingly realistic in the dim light. That's the part that just gives you chills.
So they had a way out of their cells and a way to buy themselves a whole lot of time. But hey, getting out of the building was only half the battle. They still had to cross the treacherous, frigid waters of the bay. And for that, they needed gear.
Their resourcefulness here was just unbelievable. They got inspired by an article in a popular mechanics magazine, and they managed to steal over 50 of the prison-issued raincoats. They painstakingly glued them all together to create an inflatable raft and life preservers. They made paddles from scrap wood and even stole a concertina, one of those accordion-like instruments, to use as a bellows to inflate their raft. Who thinks of that?
So sometime around 10 p.m. on the night of June 11th, with their dummy heads all tucked into bed, Morris and the Anglin brothers climbed up to the roof, shimmied down to the shoreline, inflated their makeshift raft, and pushed off into the dark, foggy waters of the San Francisco Bay. The next morning, as you can imagine, all hell breaks loose. The FBI is called in, a massive manhunt kicks off, and their best, and really their only source of information is Alan West, the guy they left behind. He starts detailing the entire plan, including, crucially, where they were headed.
Now, this part is absolutely brilliant. They didn't aim for San Francisco. That was way too obvious, way too populated. Instead, their plan was to paddle 2 miles north to Angel Island. At the time, it had a missile base that was being decommissioned, so not a lot of people would be around. And from Angel Island, it's just a short hop over to the mainland of Marin County.
And what do you know? West's story starts to check out. In the days right after the escape, searchers found a makeshift wooden paddle floating in the water near Angel Island. And even more compelling, they found a small, sealed packet made from that same raincoat material, and inside were personal photos belonging to the Anglin brothers. It really looked like they'd made it.
But despite these clues, the trail just went cold. For years, the official story was simple. The men drowned in the bay. In 1979, the FBI officially closed the case. And it stayed dormant for decades, until 2003, when a U.S. Marshal named Michael Dyke decided to take a fresh look.
And what he found was, well, it was stunning. By digging back into these old, forgotten police records from 1962, documents that the original FBI investigation had apparently missed, he uncovered some seriously compelling new evidence that changed everything.
First up, he finds a police report from Marin County. On the very night of the escape, a 1955 blue Chevy was reported stolen. This lined up perfectly with what Alan West had said all along. Their plan was to land in Marin and steal a car.
But here's the clincher. The eyewitness who reported the theft also said they saw 3 men inside the vehicle. And crucially, this report was made long before the news of the Alcatraz escape even went public. It was direct corroboration of their plan.
So this new evidence, it seriously throws a wrench in the official theory that the men drowned. I mean, if they stole a car in Marin, it means they survived the bay crossing. They got away. The escape from Alcatraz suddenly looks a lot less like a failed attempt and a whole lot more like a wild success.
And that's really the enduring appeal of this story, isn't it? These guys were career criminals. They spent their whole lives in and out of institutions. But using nothing but their own smarts and whatever junk they could find, they took on the most formidable prison in the country. They fought the law, and you know what? Maybe, just maybe, they won.
In the end, the whole mystery really hinges on one simple, undeniable fact. In all the decades since they escaped, despite one of the biggest manhunts in history, not a single body has ever been found. There's never been any definitive proof that they died.
And so the legend of the Alcatraz escapees just lives on, leaving all of us to wonder. Did they finally meet their match in the frigid waters of the bay, or did Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers actually pull off the impossible and live out the rest of their days as free men? What do you think?